Hello. Right. Now, I only found out about this actually overhearing a conversation from a teammate. And I hadn't seen it widely mentioned on the forums, although since then I see there's a massive thread on this particular piece of software. We have been the majority of us on iRacing have been left in the dark because we were thinking, well, as far as force feedback's concerned, the only sort of tweaking we can do is perhaps within the app.ini file for the damper types, whether it's friction or torque, and also perhaps we could adjust force feedback also by utilizing whether we use linear or the other one which sort of interpolates everything, or also by adding minimum force. But there is a new tweak out there written by some amazing guys who have, at least for me and certainly many others, only the minority at the moment, really changed the inverted commas sim as a whole for me. It really has brought the force feedback back to life. Things like catching slides and getting a sense of the loadings on the car on the front end now, feeling the back end squirming under braking and also under acceleration are really accentuated now, and it really does just change things over. I mean, I haven't got a cheap wheel, I've got a T500. And one of my main criticisms of the T500 has been, I mean, it's a great, robust, strong, tough wheel. But I've always sort of felt that, okay, it's a belt-driven wheel, which many think is superior, i.e. with the Fanatec line of wheels, but to me, the belt somehow softened everything out, and I can't complain about the forces. I mean, the strength is great, and it still feels good. But if I'm really honest, I can go back 2 wheels previous. So my last one was a G27, and then the one before that was a DFGT, the plastic monstrosity. But I have to say, there with the old cogs, actually the force feedback wasn't that bad on them. And I think that was partly down to the physical interaction, the connection, the gearing of the actual cogs themselves. And so, although I love my T500, I also sort of think, well, yeah, it's good, but is it really that good? I mean, it's great, stronger for sure, and I'm sure there are some aspects that are far superior. And being able to change over the have different wheels on there and that sort of change over wheels and that sort of thing. Oh, yeah, that's great. Anyway, aside from that, there was me plodding on my own merry way, thinking, yeah, iRacing force feedback. All right, some cars better than others, mind. Anyway, and then I heard about this app or this piece of software called iRFFB. So I presume that stands for iRacing Force Feedback. Now, first of all, before you do anything, all I can say is I do have a friend and teammate who uses iRFFB, and he's had a few problems with it, but I think that's more down to his particular preferences and how he likes his wheel to feel. So I don't think this detracts from what iRFFB is actually trying to do. For me, I really cannot complain, and I'll make no bones about it. I think the difference is maybe not as close to night and day, but it certainly isn't far off that. So, your experience may differ from mine. I can only speak to you with regards to having tried this, and I'm obviously going to compare it to my T500, the T500 base anyway. So for me, certainly it's a massive improvement. So let's just, I'm just going to take you over to show you where the listing is in the forum. So here we are on the iRacing members forum, and if you simply go up to the search box up here and type in iRFFB and search all, you will find it. Okay, now the guy NL Print has done a great write-up here, and he's really good at answering questions, queries. If people have problems, he's come in there. For me, I was okay. I worked it out myself. I had a little bit of an issue when I first set it up, but after that it was fine. Now once you've had a good read through this particular post here, and I honestly do recommend reading it through from the start. There's 13 pages at present on today's date, which is the 3rd of June. I would recommend reading all of them, really. It's well worth it, and it will give you a little bit more of an insight into how this thing works. Also, bear in mind that this piece of software isn't written for any one particular brand of wheel. This will work with an 4-speed back wheel, period. Okay? And the way it does this, in my mind, okay, no, I'm not the guys that have written this, so I'm sure if somebody wants to correct me, or obviously find out for yourself by reading through the thread. iRacing does pump out force feedback to the wheel at 60 Hertz. But that's the signal that iRacing is given, and in my opinion it can be a little bit blocky and not that smooth, and it doesn't flow. And what they've done here is they've taken the effects as a whole, not only from the atypical torque at the column, steering column, I think they use here, but also they've managed to capture, because now we've got 360 Hertz telemetry. They've also now are feeding in some telemetry data, and I'll show you a bit more about that in a moment. In any case, now I'm presuming now that you've read through this post here from beginning to end. Doesn't take you long. What was it, 20 minutes? And then once you've done that, you'll come back to the first page here, and you'll need to look. You'll be thinking, well, where do I download this? Well, first of all, you will go to the GitHub link here. As you say, there's more information, including a short guide on installation and configuration. They have a wiki set up for it here, so I've already got that page open, and here you are here. Okay, and in this page it will explain to you how to this is the actual configuration page, explaining to you exactly what to do. Important to read this through. I missed a couple of points here. For example, the software here uses VJoy to create another virtual force feedback device, and then intercepts the iRacing force feedback signal and diverts it through the VJoy interface. Okay, so you will need to have the VJoy software downloaded, and then you will obviously need to download the iRFFB app itself. Okay, so that's also on another page. In any case, this is the VJoy download section, and once you've downloaded and set up VJoy, you will find that there are actually, it's not just one program, there are a couple in there. Okay, but in any case, download and install VJoy first, then go and download the from the releases page here. I'll open this one up, I had forgot to do that. Go and download, oh sugar, wrong one. Let me go back to the thread. New version is available here. I think I'm in the right section here. Yeah, so download the latest iRFFB version. And once you have done that, installed both VJoy and iRFFB, which by the way is just an executable. So once you have actually downloaded the zip file or the exe now, I think with the latest update you're simply downloading the exe file, place it somewhere convenient, and then create a shortcut on your desktop to the FFB software. Always wise to run in admin mode if you're not an admin user, just to make sure that if you're saving settings, i.e. on a per car basis, it can actually write those settings. So now we're going to presume that you've downloaded everything, and now we're going to go and have a look at the VJoy config. Let's actually, I'll tell you what, let's just minimize the iRacing screen here so that we can actually see what we're doing. And let's open up VJoy config. So when you open VJoy config, it will look like this. Now for me, I don't actually know what's going on here, but I know there are two devices that picked up. If you run a button box, for example, that may also use VJoy. I've got a red option here which I'm not absolutely certain about, but one thing I do know is that the device that I am using, at least my wheel, has been picked up by VJoy as being device number 1 here. And let's actually open up the following wheel as well. Well, that's there. Okay, and there, and there. Right, there we go. Now we got a good idea what's going on. And let's just also open up FFB. Okay. So now what I found is, just in order to get my bearings right, once I had installed FFB and set up VJoy config, the only axis you need to worry about in VJoy config is the x-axis, and that is the wheel rotation to left and right. Make sure that enable effects is ticked here on the force feedback side on the right hand, and make sure all of those options are checked. Then also, if you want to use the VJoy config for your buttons as well, then make sure you type in here how many buttons the device has and whether it has a POV hat, like a look around switch on it. So it's 4 directional, the one I have, and I have just one of them. And hit apply once you make those changes, and then you can even disable quickly and then re-enable just to make sure those settings have stuck there. Okay, and now I'm going to have to restart iRFFB because it's lost it, and I've got a shortcut on my desktop here. So rerun iRFFB. There we go. And I can see that it's not picking up this device. That's great. I can see it's there because the VJoy list has picked it up. So let's close that off and just see if we can do all that again. And close that window, and we'll close down there. So it can be a little bit fiddly, especially if you're not used to so much playing around with these sort of things. So there we go, we're back now. So I can confirm, once I've set up VJoy config with my appropriate number of buttons, set the x-axis and made sure that the enable force feedbacks option is ticked, and ensured that I have actually selected the correct device, we can then just double check in VJoy monitor, which is downloaded with VJoy as a bundle, and I can see there that it just wants to go around when I'm turning to the left, and this is quite normal in for this. Okay, and you can see there, up, down, left, right. It's only accepting one because the T500 formula rim is weird with its POVs. In fact, there are 2 on the wheel, but it only actually registers as 1. Anyway, and we can also see the VJoy device has been selected as number 1 here and not number 15. Okay, and it's all connected. So that's it really. Now, once you actually have iRFFB open, make sure that you have selected your wheel actually, because initially it will be blank. You'll see down here that it's just confirming that it's all loaded correctly. It'll tell you how many buttons it's got, confirm the number of buttons that you've set inside VJoy config, POV, and also just saying that VJoy basically has made the connection to that virtual device as well. Okay, so once you're there, that's fine. Now, initially, if you're use car specific settings, it's just as well to do that, in my opinion, because it will vary much more than just iRacing's basic setup. And so, in fact, that's one option. I wanted to use 360 on for the suspension. So running from top to bottom, your wheel type, they recommend force feedback type as 60 Hz and direct filtered mode, because that is the setting with the minimal amount of lag or latency. So this is far quicker. Minimum force is recommended to be set up exactly at the value that you would have had it inside iRacing. Max force, despite it appearing round the other way, 5 Newton meters on the left and 65 on the right, works back to front. So the further the slider goes here, the less force you will have at the wheel. Further the slider goes to the left, more force you will have at the wheel. Suspension bumps, suspension load, and the SOP effect. Okay, now the SOP effect, I can't be sure how they work, but the first two, the bumps and load, are pretty self-explanatory. Okay, if you're thinking, well actually I prefer the iRacing feel on this, you could turn those down. You will still have the benefit of using the iRFFB interface to intercept the iRacing force feedback. And you could also still use the SOP effect, just to give you a bit more of an idea as to what's happening at the back end. But you will have to play and adjust these according to which vehicle you're in. But as long as you've got this checkbox at the bottom here ticked, use car specific settings, it will save them for each specific car. At the moment I was just in a test session with the HPD, and it knows that. And when I went in there, it loaded those settings up, and when I exit the sim, it will write the current settings that I had loaded at that time. Also, I have heard or read on the forum, the post as well for iRFF, that use 360 Hz telemetry for suspension effects in direct modes tends to smooth out those effects and not make them too blocky or jerky. And I would concur with that. I have found the same results here. So let's just say, for example, you just wanted to have a fairly balanced feel after coming straight into this, being quite new. It might feel weird to you that, for example, when you're approaching a slightly bumpy right-hand fast corner, that you suddenly feel the wheel pulling to the left. Well, I'm sorry, that is exactly what the wheel would be doing in the real world. You know, the weight transfer is transferring over to the left hand side and wants to force that wheel straight again where you're trying to turn to the right. That wheel wants to go back straight because of the weight over that side of the vehicle. So that is, it's going to let you know what's happening there, in particular at the front end, and with regards to weight transfer from the rear to the front of the vehicle. A really, real amazing tool to use. I would recommend using it. Sorry, I've been going on too long already. All I can say is, listen, give this a go. The guys, you know, are, well, you know, I would have paid for the software if I'd really known how much of a difference it would have made. I would have gladly paid, you know, a few dollars for it, absolutely. I think they're going to be putting up a donation box or PayPal link somewhere at some point, and I'd gladly give a few dollars for that because it's well worth it. Another thing to just to say, if you just want to confirm that it is connected and it is the iRFF signal it's reading for your wheel. When you open up the options here for the driving controls, you will see that linear mode and dampen oscillations is actually grayed out. You will not be able to edit the force feedback settings from within iRacing once you have FFB on, once you've turned it on or started that program. Okay, and then you know it's made that connection. But a little bonus side is, though, that you can actually edit the force feedback settings on the fly whilst you're in the vehicle. All of these settings are editable whilst you're actually out on track. So if you've got a fourth screen, I've got a triple setup, so if you've got a fourth screen there, you can have that active on that window. You can be keeping an eye and run your mouse over there, adjust a couple of settings, and then just continue on and see how that feels. Saves a lot of time. So yeah, a bit of a pain that you have to set it up per car, but you know, we had to do that anyway, because certainly for me, for example, force feedback for a Ford Mustang 500 on the Nordschleife wouldn't be the same as the settings that I would use, say, at Lime Rock. They would always be very slightly different. So anyway, I hope you guys have found this useful. I certainly have found it to be, as I was saying, and big shout out to the guys there, fellow iRacing members, and NL Print and his helpers. You know, absolutely amazing piece of software, and more than impressed. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and I hope this helps you out.